Our final stage of Piaget's theory is the formal operational stage. This stage, according to Piaget, is the final stage that you enter at puberty and where you will remain for the rest of your life. So let's explore Piaget's formal operational stage. The hallmarks of this stage are, number one, cognitive maturity. According to Piaget, with puberty, the brain fully matures, and now you have the ability to think in your most sophisticated way. That means you're going to be able to think in abstractions. You're going to be able to think about things that aren't necessarily concrete. In the last stage, you were able to think logically as long as it was a concrete, manipulable, something in real life that you were considering. With puberty, allows a person to start thinking in this abstract way. So questions such as, what would it mean for you if your mother had never been born, are now things that you can consider. As a concrete operational child, the notion that your mother was never born or that you might not exist are just not even, they aren't even feasible. By adolescence, you can at least consider those possibilities because you can think in the abstract. You can see possibilities. You can think about what would be possible if you did this behavior or that behavior. You know, what could I do for a living? Where could I live in the world? What kinds of things could I engage my time? These kinds of possibilities become more embraceable as we develop cognitively. We're able to test hypotheses now that we have formal operational thinking. So we can think about, okay, so if I believe that if I were to do this behavior, it would cause this outcome. We can test that, right? We can test that hypothesis and see whether it's supported or not. So how does Piaget know, or why does he think that at puberty, thinking matures? Well, one thing that he pointed to was something that he called the scale problem. In the scale problem, the participant is provided with two weights or choices of weights, and then there is a fulcrum and there's a balance. And so the participant can place the balance wherever they want, and they can place whichever weights they want to try and get the balance to level out. So in the smallest children, in the pre-operational children, they don't have really any clue what's happening, and so they're not very testable on this particular task. You know, you're telling them it should be level, and they're not sure what level means, and the whole thing is very difficult to do with a 2 to 7-year-old. So they're sort of not in the running. Early concrete operational children, they might try just a trial and an error. They'll put their weights where they think they should go. When it's not balanced, they're not sure what to try next. They're stumped. They don't understand what to do next. As they get a little farther along, they might accidentally land in the right places with their weight, still in the concrete operational stage. They may have gotten it to level out, but then now if you say, what could you change and still have it be level? Like, try some different weights, see if you can make it happen again. They may not be able to make it happen again. It may have just been pure luck that they got it where it was and they don't know what else to do. By formal operations, the child may start to recognize that, well, the weight and relative distance from the fulcrum are the key factors in getting the balance to be level. And so they may try different things, they may try different weights, different positions until they finally get it level. And then when asked, can you do it with other weights? They can, because now they have figured out the principles that are causing the level to be flat, or the balance to be level. So with more sophisticated reasoning, they can test these hypotheses to enable them to actually determine what factors go into making the balance level. So, according to Piaget, this was impossible for us when we were in concrete operations. We needed our brain to mature and develop to the point where now we can display this kind of hypothetical testing and, abstract reasoning that would allow us to test that scale problem. On the topic of hypothetical thought, when we reach formal operational reasoning, we're able to consider outcomes that are not present in reality. That's what a hypothetical is. For a younger child, what is the only thing that is and is the only thing that could be. They can't understand how the world how can you even give me this hypothetical question? Because it is how it is. I don't understand the question. Whereas for an older child who has reached formal operational reasoning, they understand that a hypothetical means we're going to suspend our knowledge of how the world actually is, and we're going to consider, what if it was this other way? What if a paperclip was 30 feet tall? Can you think of any new uses for the paperclip now that you are considering that it's 30 feet tall? So that kind of hypothetical thinking becomes possible with formal operations. We also display something called inductive reasoning when we reach formal operations, and that is where you take one or more specific experiences and allow those things to help you to formulate a specific conclusion, a general conclusion that should be able to apply in other situations, because you've used multiple factors to help you to come to this conclusion. A lot of people a lot of us in psychology refer to this as bottom-up processing, where you're taking the experiences that you've had, you're taking the knowledge base that you have, and you're using that to help you to solve the problem. So you're using existing data points. That's inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning also starts to develop during formal operational thinking. And so deductive is where you have a specific case and you generalize out from that. So inductive, you take the details and you draw a conclusion that will probably work in lots of situations. Deductive is where you have a specific case and you generalize out from that. A lot of us call this top-down processing, because we're taking our previous experience and our knowledge of how the world works to help us to make sort of logical conclusions that would work across lots of situations. To do deductive reasoning, we may have to take multiple steps along the way because we have only a little bit of information to start the deductive process. And again, Piaget thought you needed to have a certain amount of cognitive sophistication in order to be able to think like that. And so deductive reasoning is another aspect of growth and development that we see in the formal operational adolescent. Now, the question that might be coming to your mind is, does everybody think that our thinking style matured at puberty and there's no place else to go as far as sophistication or developed reasoning or things like that? And Piaget definitely thought that once you reached puberty that you would start to develop these formal operations and that this would be your ability to think for the rest of your life. Other people, don't worry, when you get to the study of adulthood, other people have said, I think there's more to come. But Piaget definitely thought this was it for development. So this concludes the Piaget stages of development. We have gone from the sensory motor stage through the pre-operational stage, through the concrete operational stage, and ultimately culminated in formal operations, which is the end of Piaget's model of how we think.